comes the money. You're now listening to the Gambling with Gold podcast with Jason Gold. Presented by Champions Round.
What is going on? My name is Jason Gold. Welcome to Gambling with Gold, episode 83. We're going to be talking NBA Finals Game 3 recap and Game 4 betting preview. With me, as always, my guy from the Action Network, Dan Titus. Dan, how you doing this Thursday?
Pretty good, man. Plenty of time to assess what happened yesterday. We got like a one-day turnaround to talk about Game 4. I feel pretty good about Boston, but man, that was a really entertaining Game 3. Hopefully Steph Curry isn't as hurt as it appeared initially, but yeah, they're gonna have to get back on the saddle real quick here because man, they're a couple games away. Could get interesting. So yeah, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the game, what happened, and maybe what adjustments the Warriors can make.
Yeah, so one mea culpa that we have to do from the pod on, I guess, Tuesday was I'm an idiot and thought it was 2-3-2. It's 2-2-1-1-1. I'm like so stuck in my old Laker brain. Exactly. So we are going to get back to Golden State with this being 3-2. So it is like Boston 6 kind of seems like probably where we're headed at this point, unless the Warriors can get it done in Game 4. So let's talk about Game 3 a little bit. Boston wins 116-100. Currently, the series price BetMGM, Celtics minus 225, Warriors plus 180. Game 4, which is on a Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, which, I mean, these people on the East Coast having to deal with a 9 o'clock start time. I don't feel bad for you at all.
It's the revenge for us having to wake up at 10 a.m. every Sunday for football.
You know what? When I was in college, it stunk. And now, I'm not waiting around till 1 p.m. to watch football. No. I need to get up and at them. I'm up at 6 or 7 a.m. So whatever. West Coast, best coast for watching sports for sure. Game line for Game 4, Warriors plus 3.5. Same line as last night. Over under 214.5, which is up a tick from where it closed in Game 3. Money line on that. Warriors plus 145. Celtics minus 175. So I guess let's start here. Game 3. Warriors come out totally flat in the first quarter, second quarter, whatever. Third quarter, they dominate per usual. Fourth quarter, they let it slip away again. What adjustments do you think the Warriors have to make right now with either their lineups or their style of play, assuming that Steph is healthy? Because if Steph's not healthy, this series is over in 5 easily.
Yeah, I think the first thing that they have to do is get Gary Payton the second more minutes. 11 minutes, that was very surprising coming out of Game 2. We talked about how he would be we thought he would be actually a pretty effective piece for Game 3, knowing that Boston had to make these adjustments, but he really wasn't a factor. So, I think with Draymond Green not playing well at all on offense, he's only averaging 7 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. So that's pretty concerning. This is not the Draymond of old, and I think even from a defensive perspective, Jaylen Brown just went right at him in the first half there. And
first quarter Jaylen Brown is like the easiest money that you can make right now.
Man, it's crazy. Like, he just continues to go off. And, I think it's a bit concerning that the Warriors lost with Clay giving you 25 too. So they're going to have these role players step up here. And if Steph isn't 100%, you got to get some scoring from those X factors. But I think it's more important that they actually get some stops on defense. And, the adjustments, I think maybe they have to go a little bit bigger. Maybe Kevon Looney gets more than 16 minutes too, because Robert Williams was just having a day in the paint, man. Like, so great defensively. You saw why he was, runner-up to Defensive Player of the Year to Marcus Smart, or should have been probably if he played more games realistically. But I think all the momentum and energy was really on Boston's side in that game. We were on the Boston side of things. We thought that was going to happen. The question is do the Warriors have more adjustments in the bag to counter this again? And I don't know, man. I'm on the Boston Celtics here. I just think that on the road, just to go through a couple of trends, because I think a lot of the focus in Game 3 was like, well, the Celtics are just flawless after a loss, and they continue that. They're 7-0 now. But let's look at the Warriors after a loss. 4-1 against the spread, and covering by a margin of 8.5 points so far in the playoffs, 5-0 straight up. But all of those games have come on their home floor, we haven't seen the Warriors lose and on the road and then come back and get a victory here. So since 2015 in the Steve Kerr era, they're 7-6 against the spread on the road. So after a loss. So man, just the way that they looked, the energy got sucked out the building, man. I don't know if unless Draymond Green can rally the troops here in the TD Garden Arena, I can't back the Warriors here, man. I just don't think that they have it, and I think this is going to go up 3-1 to the Celtics. And then after that, I got some bold predictions, but I think this is going to be 3-1 Celtics right here.
All right, so I'll hold on to the bold predictions because I want to hear all of them. But
yeah,
82.1% of the time, teams that win Game 3 in a 1-1 series wins the series. Team up 2-1 in the finals win 80.3% of the time, 49-12 lifetime. So
it's high.
We're looking at it likely where before the series, all the analytics said that the Boston Celtics had like an 84% chance to win, and we made fun of them, and perhaps rightly so. But right now, look at the historical trends. They probably have about an 80-85% chance of winning the series, despite the fact that they're only minus 225, which would imply that they're like a 70% chance to win, 68 to 70%. So in theory, there could be some value in betting the Celtics to win the series right now. Doesn't matter how. That minus 225 sticks out to me as something I don't want it to happen. I'm a Laker fan through and through. I'm rooting for the Warriors in the series, but my head says that was Celtics minus 225. That might be a nice little bet to make right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could also look at, some series prices for exact outcomes. I mean, Celtics in 6 is certainly live. You can get that at plus 170. But the one that I like is the Warriors in 7. I'm still holding on for dear life there.
Holding on to it. All right, so
3-1.
Here's the bold predictions. All right, so we think we're going to bet the Celtics tomorrow night. At least that's the plan right now.
Yep.
Minus 3.5. They go up 3-1. Then how do you see the series unfolding from there? Saying that you have a bold prediction and you're saying Warriors in 7. How do you see it playing out to get to that point?
So they go back to Golden State, get it to 3-2, steal one on the road, 3-3. Guess what? You got home court advantage for Game 7. This is Steph's moment. Goes off for like 40, gives them the championship, Finals MVP. One of the best finals we've seen in a long time.
So you get to this point where if you're the
that's
Warriors,
3 straight,
like,
by the way. That's
yeah. So if you're the Warriors at this point, you're like, okay, if we hold home court, so we get games 5 and game 7, all we have to do is win one of the next 2 games on the road. That's fine. Right. What can they do in a 1-game scenario? Do they just go, you know what? All the bullets are out of the chamber. Let's throw the entire kitchen sink at it for 1 game. And do they have to do it in game 4, or do they try to save it for game 6, thinking, okay, 5 and 7, we have to get it at home. We've lost a home finals game 7 again. That shit is never happening again. If we get it to Chase Center for game 7, we will not lose. So at one point, you just go, whatever we have left, here it is. Just show Boston all of your cards.
Right. That's a great point. And I think Boston got away with one. Like, they stole game 1. That game right there, that's been the differentiator. But, going back in history since 2016, the Warriors have won at least 1 away game in 26 consecutive playoff series. So they're going to get 1. It's just a matter, is it game 4 or is it game 6? And that's where I'm like, I feel like it's going to be game 6, man, because we're going to have more days in between. I think Steph could definitely use another day of rest after injuring that leg. We don't know the severity of the injury, but all I know is that he didn't get an MRI, but he said he's going to play. It's also the NBA Finals, so I'm not surprised he wouldn't say anything else other than that. But I think they're going to need a little bit of time to readjust here. That recalibration could come in Golden State. They play better at home. I think you'll get more Jordan Poole. That's another adjustment I think they're going to have to make, is when they go back, I think we're going to have to see more pace and probably get more time for Jordan Poole on the floor there to get more buckets. Otto Porter will probably need to see some more minutes as well. But they're going to have to tighten up the lineup. So I don't know. You got the starting 5, and then I think you maybe run just Otto Porter, Gary Payton II, and Jordan Poole. That's your lineup, and that's what you attack them with.
Porter was the only one last night with a positive plus-minus. He was a +4 in 21 minutes. This is coming after game 2 when he had the highest plus-minus that we talked about on the show on Tuesday. Right. I think Porter, it might be a 25-minute game for him in game 4, and maybe even more. I do agree, I think, with the shorter 8-person lineup. You know, the 8 guys that can work here. Looney's going to have to get more minutes. You cannot let Robert Williams have the sort of game, which we were surprised by. I think the only 2 things that we were wrong about,
the only ones that were on the under. But like,
Robert Williams,
I thought he was hurt.
Yeah, so did I. And he had not been effective in the series, and I don't know if he will continue to be so, but he was definitely, to me, the MVP of Game 3. He was absolutely dominant, even though he only had 8 points and 10 rebounds or 10 points and 8 rebounds, whatever it was, 4 block shots. He was absolutely dominant in that game, and I don't know what the Warriors can do. My question about the Warriors here is, a couple things. One, what the hell is going on with Draymond? 15 points and 15 fouls in this series. And 2, the Warriors in the third quarter, again, they're a plus. I have it written down here. They're like a plus 74. No. They're plus 43 in the third quarter in this series, and they're a minus 40 in all the rest of quarters combined. What are they doing differently in the third quarter? Is it just the after halftime adjustment? Is it the way that they play with the pace? Because the Warriors in the half court have been like gross, disgusting, awful in this series. But when they get in any sort of transition, they're money. So I don't know if that's what they're doing in the third quarter or not, but I feel like that's something that they may have to do the entire game.
Yeah, and I was gonna bring it back to that point. And like, I think we were really tracking that Warriors third quarter as a home trend, but that just could be the way that these series swing, is that you can count on Steve Kerr making some kind of adjustment at halftime, whether it's scheming for Steph, because Steph's gone off in the third quarter the last 2 games. I don't know specifically what it is. Maybe it's the rotations of the minute allocations of how long they're keeping certain players in that third quarter where they can just make these runs. But I'm definitely concerned that I'm not getting more consistent performance throughout the game and having to rely on a third quarter to get that boost and to get back into the game here. So that's something I'm certainly going to be looking at for Game 4. I don't know that I want to, man, it's at plus money to have the Warriors to win the third quarter. So I'm like tempted by it, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
So Steph in the third quarter of Game 3, they go on this insane run. They have the 7-point play. They grab the lead for a second, and then Kerr rests him for the last 3 minutes of the quarter because he's like, okay, we were down, I think 12 at half, whatever it was.
Yeah,
we grabbed the lead. Mm-hmm. If we go down 5 going into the fourth quarter, even if I have to sit Steph, we're in a good spot. Like, we grab part of the lead back. But then you lose all the momentum, and Steph is so hot. I felt like that was a little bit of a concerning, like, you need to have a bigger lead or a lead at all. They're playing so much better in this series with a lead than having to trail. And again, with the half-court sets that they're running, it's almost like they have to play with a lead. I'm wondering if in the first quarter in Game 4, they're just like, screw it. Full Steph show. I don't care. We need to play and grab a lead. We need to be up like, 5 or 10 and play that way.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that killed him in the first game was like the non-Curry minutes. As soon as he stepped off the court in the fourth quarter, they went on a 7-0 run and didn't look back. And then the same thing happened in the third quarter. It's like if this guy leaves the floor, you got to have someone that's going to make an impact on the scoring side. So that's why I'm thinking maybe they deploy a faster, putting more shot creators on the floor earlier than trying to slow the defense. Maybe you can get them into a little bit. I don't know if you want to be into a shootout. Maybe you do want to be in a shootout with them. It's a different style, and at least that keeps Robert Williams off the floor, which is a good thing. Like you want to exploit those matchups, getting him on a switch on the perimeter. You can drive by him, you can get him in a switch. They play drop coverage, you shoot over top. But I think that they're really going to have to answer the mail by scoring more points here. And I think in the adjustment side, defensively, I don't know how much more they can do. They just got to score more points, and it has to be consistently outside of Steph Curry. So who do you get engaged? I think Jordan Poole, he's, what do you have? 11 points, 10, 11 points.
Yeah, he was 4 of 8 from the field, 1 of 4 from deep. Like it wasn't that
impactful, right? So they're going to have to get these guys going earlier on so that you can survive those non-Curry minutes.
And I want to go back to Draymond for a second. Just like, what do you do with him? I don't have an answer for. Obviously, he has to be in the court. He does so much otherwise, but he's been so deficient offensively, and he's not really creating anything for anyone else except for maybe 2 quarters in Game 2. But Steph can get his own. Like Steph will be fine with. But I don't know what you do about Draymond other than light a fire under his ass, which the Celtics fans certainly did. But I don't. All right, I have to go on a little rant for a second. If you're the Warriors, what the fuck do you expect? Boston hasn't had a finals game in Boston in 12 years. Boston fans are absolutely fucking nutbag, in a good way. Crazy. And also in a bad way. Did you not expect that they were not going to chant "fuck Draymond"? Like, obviously they were going to do that. You should have had the mufflers on your ears, kids. Maybe the kids shouldn't be at the game. Like, he's a grown man going into Boston. Obviously, that's going to happen. That's part of the fun of going into Boston. So if you weren't ready for that, I thought it was a little bit like they were. I thought that was weak. Afterwards.
Yeah, I was like, what are we doing here? You know, I thought it was I didn't really understand the motive behind it, other than to like just complain about Boston fans. But like, what do you expect? Especially with the target that Draymond painted on his back by talking all that shit on his podcast right before, or in the press conference before that. So like, he's got to be able to deal with the smoke at this point. Like, he's got to show up. This is the game. If this is going to be a Draymond game, this is got to be the one, because he is not a threat on offense at all. They're just not even guarding him at this point. Like, they guard him in the screen, and then, you know, we saw in game 2 how he was so effective in that screen and roll that they were getting a lot of shots off. But I mean, they pretty much deaded that in game 3. So he's got to be ready to take the ball to the basket, or at least pull the shot, because other than that, he's just like a cone out there. He's getting torched on defense too. Like, he had a couple good plays, like, you know, a couple blocks, and certainly still can get there on the rotations. But I don't know, man. He looks like he got a step slower, and I don't know how you hide him. You need him on the floor for his intensity, but maybe you stagger some of his minutes. Maybe you don't give him 38. Maybe you play Otto Porter a little bit more in certain situations. Take advantage of, maybe you stagger his minutes with Jaylen Brown or a different player. Like, I don't know what the answer is for Draymond, but he's got to wake up, because this team is only going to go as far as his defense and his intensity. And he was pretty much checked out. A lot of fouls, was getting into the fan hype and all that. Like, I think he just got distracted and got off his game. And I think you saw it in the second half. Like, it just didn't really work out for him or the Warriors in the fourth quarter, especially.
I think one of the things that interests me about the Warriors so much in this series, and maybe concerning if you're betting on them, is they have to be so reactive with their moves to what Boston's doing. They can't really dictate a lot of the action. Usually, if you're not dictating, you're going to be the one in trouble. So unless they're the ones that can find a way to dictate either by pace or shooting variant or whatever, they have to find a way to be able to dictate in game 4 and not be so reactive.
Exactly.
If not, they're dead.
I agree. So for serious bets, you're thinking Celtics in 6 is the most likely outcome?
Yeah, I think so. What
about Celtics in 5? Do you think you can do it in 5?
No, because I think the Warriors have too much pride at home. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think that Boston's going to win game 4. I'm leaning that way, but I don't want to be too reactive to what I saw last night. I'm trying to keep it in perspective.
Right.
But I just don't know what Golden State does if Steph isn't 100%. Like, Klay's going to have a game 6 game in game 4. And even then, like, what happens if Klay scored 5 like last night, and if Steph only hit on 3 thing, felt like they hit 20, they still lost the game by 16. So it's basically going to be like they need what happened to happen in game 2 again, where Boston's shooting variance just goes to absolute trash and they take a lot of useless threes and stuff doesn't really go their way. But if the play is like a B+ game tomorrow night, I think the Boston's going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the struggle I have with. So I was trying to look at the shorter game angle, like, can I play a quarter or potentially a half? But I kind of like where you're leaning towards, where the Warriors adjust by just coming out firing offensively. Like, part of me wants to take the Warriors first quarter. Yeah.
+1.5, -110 right now. Money line +130, over under 54.5 at BetMGM. So maybe that Warriors first quarter +130 and do the +1.5 on top of it. I don't hate that. That's the only way that I think.
And then you can live bet the trends as it goes through. Is like the third quarter, if that's a momentum swinger, hey, you can kind of pounce on that as it may. But I think that's the way that the Boston Celtics came out. Like, I think they could be riding a little bit too high off of that victory, and then Steve Kerr makes a couple adjustments. Because that's the thing, is like, does he want to pull out is he going to pull out all the stops in game 4? I think that's a great question that you asked. Or does he just kind of continue to play it as it is, make a couple adjustments, maybe make a couple more shots, get the rotation a little bit tighter. Maybe you can shorten that game a little bit. But what about the game total? How do you feel about the total at 214 right now?
Yeah, so I expected the total to drop as the series went along. It has not. It is going up a tick every game, and they hit over last game, albeit by 2.5 points. So it was pretty
2.5 points. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I still think I'd lean towards the under, but if the Warriors are going to play this up-tempo pace and they don't think that they have a chance in half court, then I would expect, maybe it is a shootout. Maybe it is the Warriors have to score 120 points to win a game in Boston. I don't know. I don't even know if they can. Like, do they have enough bodies? Even if Steph is 100%, how do you get to 120? You're going to need Wiggins to go off for 20. You're going to need a big pool game where he scores 25. You're going to need another, 15 to 20 from Clay. You're going to need Draymond to score 10. You're going to need Otto Porter to score like 7 or 8. So it's just asking a lot from a lot of different people here.
It is. And even if they come out firing, I don't know. I feel like you have to bet on the Celtics to regress a little bit. I mean, they had a really good game, but is Marcus Smart going to go off? I mean, are their big three going to go off for 20 plus, 5 rebounds and 5 assists, doing things that haven't been done since 1984. And Robert Williams being as effective as he was. So I think it's maybe a play. I'm probably going to stay away from the total because I can't get a read on it. I was on the under yesterday and it was close, but I think I definitely was on the wrong side, especially after such an explosive first half. I'm expecting a little bit more defense in this game.
So Boston in the game last night, 4 players with 5+ assists, only 12 turnovers on the night. That's not going to fucking happen again. I can guarantee you. They might shoot better in different places, but that exact thing with only 12 turnovers, they out-rebounded the Warriors by a ton. Some of that variance is going to come back to the middle a little bit. So I do think there is a path for the Warriors to compete. It's just going to require some really, really good shooting nights by a lot of, these inexperienced players who, to be honest, didn't play that great last night. Wiggins was okay. He scored 18. He was 7 of 16. He did his thing. But like we talked about on the last show, like he's the one that's bulletproof in this series. Just bet the over on his total points. If it's 15.5, he's going to get it one way or another. But Poole, I mean, he only took 8 shots in 24 minutes. That has to go up. And everyone else is kind of trash. Yep.
That's exactly right.
All right, so
you're still making a case for Celtics here.
I'm trying to be reasonable here. I would like to. I'm trying to find a reason to bet on the Warriors, and I can't get there. I do know this: if Marcus Smart rebound props is still 3.5, these books are getting murdered again. That was the hammer, the double hammer.
They moved it to 4. I see in some books 4.5 at plus money. I'm still even tempted by that. Like. He sailed over that. He had 4 at halftime. I mean, with him playing as many minutes as he is, and I mean, he's just been dominating the Warriors. Like, he's just a very tough. He fills the box score anytime he plays the Warriors. Minus game 2, where he only played 27, 28 minutes, and obviously didn't play in the fourth quarter. I mean, he had 1 bad game and 5 opportunities against the Warriors, and at home he's been even better against them. So yeah, I can't fade. It's hard for me to fade Marcus Smart at any game in this series.
I am hoping that I see another. The highest I bet it yesterday was minus 160 at 3.5. Didn't care. But you could have given me. Hey, you could have given me minus 200. I would be like,
a winning bet is a winning bet, man.
Yesterday was a great day for gambling. I loved it so much. I hope that we can repeat the performance in Game 4. All right, why don't we talk about some player props, some other player props that maybe we're interested in based on some of the adjustments that you think are going to happen. So. I just talked about Marcus Smart. If I see 3.5, I'm going to do it. I'll probably sprinkle a little on 4.5. I'm going to keep betting this Jason Tatum over assist. I love that bet, especially if it comes back at 5.5 again. I saw a 5.5 minus 130 earlier. I put a little bit on that. But for the Warriors side, that's the one that I'm most interested in. I think that after last night, so the Boston rotation was 8.5 guys. Basically, Pritchard was the half guy there. I know who's going to play there. And I do like the Grant Williams overs at this point. I think that the Robert Williams and Grant Williams lineup, that worked really well. If I can get a 5.5 again on that, I'll probably bet that. But in terms of the Warriors, are there any over-unders on anything that you are interested in?
Going back to the Wiggins well, but I'm going to do points and rebounds. In 2 away games versus the Warriors this year, he went over last game 25. First game back in December was 33. But really, he's just been crushing this against and just in the postseason. Over in 5 of 8 games in the postseason in away games, and over the course of just the actual playoffs, he's done it in 58% of games. So Wiggins, as you said, bulletproof in this series. I think he's just the guy that's going to be the scrappy rebounder that gets very good looks. I mean, he's their second. I trust in him more than Clay to score the ball in this series. And he hasn't really let me down yet. So I'm going to go back to it. His line is at 21.5, I believe. Let me double check that. Yep, 21.5. And he's averaging 22.3 versus 22.3 versus Boston in the playoffs so far.
I love that one. I think that maybe I'm overrating or underrating what happened in game 3 with Robert Williams, but I'm tempted to go under his points, 6.5 plus 100, and rebounds at 6.5 minus 115. I'm really interested more in the points for Robert Williams under 6.5.
Yeah, because he caught some nice little alleys there. Couple loose balls. If we get a Steve Kerr adjustment with more Looney, maybe it makes it a little bit harder to get those second chance points or those, drive to the basket. He's the only one left, kind of alley-oops on bad rotations. I think if they can get more of a front court presence, I think that definitely does limit Robert Williams' upside scoring wise.
Do you think there's any chance that we get, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here, a real Draymond good game with all the juice behind him? So, like, should I be betting Draymond over assists 5.5 minus 130? Rebounds, we talked about this last time, but a little too much variance there, but 6.5 minus 135 at the over. Draymond points 7.5. I'm not touching his fucking points. I can't do that. But assists would be the one I want to target, over 5.5 assists minus 130.
Yeah, maybe you hedge it with rebounds and assists, but like he's just been awful against Boston, only averaging 11.8. His line for rebounds and assists is 13.5. Is this the game to back Draymond? It's Draymond. It's back Draymond or it's back Clay again. And I don't know which one I want to trust here. Clay's points is sitting at 20.5. Has he strung together 2 good games in a row in the postseason? It's been a while.
It's just like Draymond's the perfect guy when he gets punched in the face to come back and swing. And he might miss, but I guarantee in game 4 he takes a big swing. And he might actually swing at someone, but he's going to take a big swing one way or another. So I think I'm going to lean towards backing Draymond for how bad he's been. I think that this is going to be a motivational, yo guys, we need this fucking game type of motivational type game, and he actually does something more than 7, 5, and 5. And being that he's still averaging 10 rebounds and assists, like 2 more, in a good game, that could be the rebound uptick that we might see with them going smaller, or maybe they play him more in certain lineups or against different people. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take the over on 12.5 rebounds and assists for Draymond. That's gonna be my stretch prop. I'm with you. All right, Draymond, we're gonna need you on Friday, buddy. No, I got 12.5 minus 125 at a bet MGM.
Oh, bet. All right,
Shop
cool.
around.
Yeah, 12.5. Let's
Shop
do it.
around.
12.5.
All right, that does it for Gambling with Gold. We'll be back next week if the series continues. I know that you will be in Detroit for FSGA for Game 5, so we probably won't do a podcast then because, fortunately, I am not going. But if we get to a Game 6, we'll definitely do a podcast. If not, we'll be back and we'll talk about maybe some NBA draft bets coming up in late June. We got a nice big board showdown that is debuting for the NBA draft. Our first time ever doing the NBA for big board showdown. So excited about that. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, with our daily dozen with 12 props for Game 4 of the NBA Finals. So until then, go place those bets. Join us on the Draymond Green train. Hopefully we make some money. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.